And so as long as the cells are downloading an identity, they are connected to that field of that identity. So it's interesting, these experiments, or they're not experiments, they're actually people whose lives were saved by these transplants, become experiments in that they also now acquire character because now their population of cells has a very large contribution from another identity. And if you really see the biology part of it, everything is in a community. If we remove the bacteria from this planet, we would die by tomorrow. I mean, we need them. We need the structure, and that's why, as a biologist, I very much get concerned about how we're destroying the environment, because if you really look at the biology, and I say we're made in an image of this environmental information, then who we really are is not the physical bodies that we end up in right now, but we are actually that environmental information. And then if you realize it, and you say, well, wait, if we came from the environment and you destroy the environment, then in the end, we actually are probably destroying that information of who we really are.
When they finally mapped the human genome,
yes,
and they said, this is this incredible breakthrough, we're going to be able to solve disease and stuff, I don't hear that coming from you.
No, not at all. Actually, they had to say that because with all the billions of dollars, they didn't want to look very sheepish and foolish when they found out, because the issue is, most people don't even know this, is that in order for the concept of genetic determinism, the belief that medicine teaches that genes control who we are, in order for that to be true, we have to have in excess of 140, 150, 200,000 genes to make a complex structure like a human. Well, the human results come out, and it turns out that we have about 25,000 genes. Well, one of the genetic organisms that's most used in laboratory research is this miniature worm called Caenorhabditis elegans. It's a miniature worm with 1,300 cells approximately, and that organism has 24,000 genes. We have 25,000 genes. Some point it's like, okay, I don't think you can understand or gauge the complexity of a human from its genes, which is now an established fact. But since all of science said humans are humans because of their genetic complexity, when the results revealed that we had like this small number of genes, nobody has ever actually spoken up about it and said anything. It's been very quiet because the reality is it's like a cosmic joke. It says your belief system that you're controlled by genes cannot be true. There are just not enough genes to do that. You're not like resisting the environment, you become in harmony with it, and resistance is met by heat and breakdown, and the structure gets jarred through resistance. And yet, as you just said, when you start to flow with the environment and go in harmony with the environment, nature actually just energizes you from the back. You're not like fighting the stream, you're flowing with the stream. And those that don't, you can see it in their personal lives, that when they are out of that harmony and out of that balance, so are their cells, so is their physiology, and almost all their characters of life are in some way dampened or in some way trumped by this not being in harmony. There is this general belief, you can talk to scientists everywhere, that humans are intelligent, and everything less than humans lack intelligence to the degree of their size or something like that. I don't know. But the point about it is, we stand out and say that like we're this intelligent thing, and everything else is just an accident happening. And it's like, oh my goodness, that's farthest thing from the truth ever. I presume, or I don't know, maybe if your audience is aware that medical practice is responsible for the leading cause of death in the United States today, and while the medical doctors get the burden of having to accept that honor, the reality is they're the dupes, and mainly because the medical doctors can only practice as good as the education that they receive. And the issue is if they're not getting an education that is proper, and it's biased and slanted because of the money from the big pharmaceutical industries, because they're trying to sell chemistry when we know you could heal with energy. So the issue is this: if they put all their money into this energy healing, they would not be the giant corporation anymore, because this is exactly why they're keeping us from going there, is energy healing's free.
People around the world are beginning to wake up to this.
Oh, yeah. It's an evolution. We are on this evolutionary track. It was interesting. 5 major books came out in a 2-month period just a couple of months ago. 5 books, 2 of them by editors, former editors of the New England Journal of Medicine, 2 of them by Harvard Medical School medical professors, and 1 of them by a pair of Pulitzer Prize writers, all within a 2-month period. Every one of them revealing that this whole system is just destructive and totally being manipulated by the pharmaceutical industry. That's for sure. That's what they're saying.
How do these cells communicate with each other?
Cells communicate by a variety of ways. There are physical direct connections, like neurons touching other cells. There are communications via chemicals, one chemical from one cell being sent to another cell. And now we also know that cells communicate by energy across fields. And that's sort of like an internet system. It's sort of what enables 50 trillion cells to be in community at the same time, because they're all reading the same field and communicating with that field.
Yet, there is no, within the body, there is no central point of control.
Well, the brain is a central point of control because its function is the brain. It's interesting because I said that the brain of the cell was the skin of the cell. And those people out there that are familiar with embryology will also recognize that a human brain is actually derived from the skin as well. So that's the fractal imagery of it. And so that our skin in the embryo is tucked into the back of us like a little fold, and that becomes the brain, the spinal cord. Its function, because remember I said we talked about cells living free and, as independent elements in a sense, and then coming together in a community. This all of a sudden said they didn't come together as a bunch of cells. I said they came together as a community of cells. The difference between a bunch and a community is this: a bunch of cells are just squeezed in the same place. But a community is a functional design saying all the cells have agreed to follow like a common voice, like to follow a leader, so that even though every cell is intelligent unto itself, it will defer its intelligence to that central voice. Well, in a human body, the cells that comprise the nervous system, that part of the skin that becomes the brain, represents the distribution center of information that by the receptors all over the surface of the body reading the environment, and the brain just responds to these signals and then engages functions. But what happens at a higher level of organization, like in a human, the brain can, after experiencing things, can write a memory, so that's like software. And it says, so if you ever experience this thing again, you don't have to go through the whole learning process. You can immediately engage in the behavior. Well, why this becomes important is the cells have to respond to the central voice. That was the agreement of the community. When cells in your body leave that nature of a community and say, oh, the heck, I'm not paying attention to this, that's called cancer. Those are cells that say, well, this community isn't serving me, and I it seems to be falling apart, so everybody out here for themselves.
Yeah, or I'll take them all with me.
We experience that as homelessness in the body or homelessness in our cities. It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
Hey, real fast, by the way, when you were talking about cholesterol as a myth.
Yes.
Why?
Because part of the research that I got involved with was on these endothelial cells, the blood vessel cells, and it turns out that the cholesterol shows up after the damage is already occurred. The cholesterol is not the insult. It's almost like a stain in the sense that it appears where damage occurs, but it itself didn't cause the damage. And it wasn't the cholesterol that was the problem. It was the stress. This whole new understanding is manifesting that organisms are continuously exchanging DNA with each other. So when we put out a genetically modified organism into an environment, we're actually seeding that modification throughout the field. In fact, it's reversed a couple of potential goals that they were looking for, in that some of the weeds have picked up the modified genes are now stronger than the crop that they were trying to protect in the first place. So they recognize that these bacteria have picked up genes from genetically modified foods. And so we're changing our own interior flora and fauna through these genetic products.